What's shaking, cats and kittens? Thank you for supporting my podcast and my sustaining partners. I want to tell you about one of them right now, Charmington Holistics. Do you know what an apothecary is? Well, an apothecary makes and provides medicines. Charmington Holistics specializes in all natural herbal remedies and is an apothecary. So, what's ailing you? Can't sleep? Got a stomach ache? Got the blues? Well, head on over to Charmington Holistics where you can find herbal support for anything you need. A personal blended tea, herbal tonic, and supplements can offer you an alternative to that Advil bottle, while an in-house herbalist listens to your needs as well. Charmington Holistics is your source for all things herbal. Head on over to 425 South Conklin Street in Highlandtown or visit Charmington Holistics on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. And Charmington Holistics is open 12 to 5 on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Head on over, check them out, tell them Rob Lee sent you. Welcome to Getting to the Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. And my next guest is the owner of a Black-owned small batch tea-focused kombucha beverage company, Tortuga Kombucha. Please welcome Davon Pulliam.
Hey, how are you?
I'm fantastic. So for the fine folks who are uninitiated, give us your background, those vital statistics, where you're from, how'd you get to Baltimore, and how'd you get into kombucha?
So I am originally from New York. I moved in 2003, and I was in high school, and my first job was at Southern Blues in Randallstown. I was cooking there, and then I went to college. I went to culinary school, came back, fast forward, worked in restaurants, and when kombucha was kind of picking up, I found some at the farmers market at 32nd Street. Ferments kombucha, and it was a long day ahead of me, and they offered it to me to like kind of help me get through and over my previous evening of work and through my next long hours of work. And after that, I started making it, and then it turned from hobby to trying to figure out what kind of business I want to start for myself. And yeah, from hobby to, project to now, very small learning operations, technically still a business, but still not like big or anything yet. So that's the quick answer.
So what was the thinking in shifting from something that was a hobby, kind of a project that you came upon kind of to help you through that day, to something that's a business project, a learning opportunity, and something for you to expand, and even taking into account your culinary background? I don't know how I missed that.
So it's a lot. So for me, I was making it at home, and the process and cooking and process and producing a product is not really that different. It's just, you have your mise en place, you have all your ingredients, you cost it, and then you replicate it. And it's not really a big difference. It's just like a dish versus, a beverage. Mm-hmm. And the experimental side is there too, where it's like, oh, what style do I want to do, or what flavors, or et cetera. So it's not, the mindset seems very different, but the skill set is the same, cleanliness and organization and, understanding temperature and time is the same with food. But how I transitioned was I was cooking in a cidery in DC. And I was kind of doing cooking and bartending, and I had to learn the cider program. And I was kind of at the point where I noticed that I was doing a lot of the jobs that help make this business a functioning business. Yeah. And I want to be able to do that for myself because I was doing it for someone else. So I used Tortuga, or I used the kombucha as the vehicle to start my own business.
I dig it. I like how you threw your culinary training terminology in with the mise en place. I was like, all right. I was like, I've read a French culinary book before. Everything is in its place. I dig it.
Yeah.
So I want to kick this scenario, and we'll get back to talking kombucha a little bit, but I want to break this one in. So, let's say you just won $10 million, right? What is that first song that you're playing when you're celebrating? Is it something very like New York hip hop? Is it trip hop? Is it jazz? What do you got?
So I have a lot of different songs for, like, I guess everyone has a lot of different songs for different scenarios.
Yeah.
My song would probably just be Beach Doctor by Odyssey. Well, oh no, Chillaxin' by the Sea by Grammatics. That is my jam right there. And it is no words. I'm more of an instrumental person. Those songs are for like helping me relax, but they're also like high temp, like a little bit more energy, or club music for real. Like when I moved to New York, I really took on like the club dancing and the music, and I play club music when I make kombucha like every night. Like it's just, so that's just like energy. So I would probably play some club. So
I hear you.
Multiple answers.
Yeah, it just depends on where you're at. I can hear the club music come in, and it's just like either that the Baltimore club or the Jersey club, or I guess some version of like house music, some derivative, and it's just something in there that's like quasi inappropriate, but it's just like, I got 10 mil, so I don't care, you know.
It's a celebratory music. It helps you feel comfortable in your body. It's a move that can be free, and that's kind of the point. So like, money can be that, but ultimately being free, like physically and mentally, the gets you there. So yeah.
And I think also its own brand, or in the literal sense, is like within experience. Like club music, when I think of club music, I think of black music, I think of brown music, I think of, oh no, this is our stuff. So just having something that falls on brand, like if someone's like, oh yeah, I play opera, it's like, all right then. There
is this black he's a black violinist. Mm-hmm. He makes really good he does like mixes of opera and hip hop, trip hop. That's really cool, but I won't play opera.
Can't do it. I think I'll just play like the theme song from movies I like when Rocky's coming back against the Russians, it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna play this real quick. Yeah. My victory, for all you ought to know.
Last one, Tank from Cowboy Bebop.
Okay. See, I was working on my jet black sideburns just for context. I got to do a little work though. So I read you worked in various restaurants in Baltimore, Petit Louis, La Cuchara. In what ways has, like outside of what you touched on with just the organization components are similar, but in what other ways, maybe in stuff that you've learned there or just your approach to your ingredients helped you with Tortuga?
I treat like my product with respect, what I do with respect, and my customers with respect. Like that's what I learned. I learned that I want to be, the role model that I would want to look up to. So like if I were to get an employee, I don't have any yet. I would want them to feel, they're not me, so they're not gonna be like, oh, I love kombucha and, I also cook and stuff, but, at least they'll take the job or the career seriously while they're working with me, because I do, I put in 100% all the time for every part, from the branding to the label to the collaborations to reaching out to the customer and the guests. Like every part of my business is important, not just the product. So like I learned that, or at least that's what I learned that from observation. And also just being able to like finding new ingredients, or for example, new tea and trying to turn it into kombucha is no different than finding like new produce or meat or chicken or, like poultry and turning into an amazing dish. So like my brain works the same way, just with different ingredients. But I still try to make sure I'm respecting like the products, and because people put it inside their bodies, so that, people want to trust you. So I want to make sure that they can.
I dig it. So let's speak on the process a little bit of how you go about making your kombucha and what separates it from other products that are around.
I think the minimal approach is what separates it. There are other businesses, kombucha businesses in the United States that make tea-focused kombucha. Mm-hmm. There aren't a lot, but there are a few of us, probably like 5 maybe. which is not a few, but it's more than a few. But I just focus on the tea flavors. Other brands, I don't know how they make their kombucha, but pretty much they have like a tea vehicle. Like all kombucha should be made from tea, and then it's like flavored somehow. And I wouldn't expect each business to make a different tea for each different flavor. So they probably have like one base, kombucha, and then they flavor it differently. Yeah. But that's my thought. I don't know if that's true. But for me, I take each kombucha, each tea, and it's its own thing. So every kombucha is its own thing. And I just make it, it's like sourdough. So like you need to start, in order to make kombucha, you need kombucha. Mm-hmm. So like the previous, let's say oolong kombucha, the first one I've ever made is always existent in every bottle because there's a little bit that gets transferred over. So it's like fortification of the same thing. So like that flavor is going to be more and more concentrated over time versus if I like had a base and then I just like pull some out and then like added like tea to it, then they're going to taste like this and with like oolong in it. Yeah. So I think that distinguishes my product. But also my branding is pretty simple. My bottle size, I want it to be a portion, not like 5 portions. Yeah. Because the kombucha changes over time. And some people drink a lot of kombucha, but not everyone. And I'd rather someone say, "Ooh, that was really good," and I'm done and want more, versus them saying, "Ooh, that was good. I can't finish this." And then it sits in their fridge for X amount of time. So that, I think I was intentional about the bottle size.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the branding, the bottle size, that kind of stuff like sticks out to me. And yeah, like for me, if I'm drinking kombucha, it's like, all right, I just want enough as kind of a refresher and kind of recognizing like, stomach's a little sour today. Can we sort this out? And that's kind of the purpose of it for me. But when it's like too much there, it's like, I'm not making this part of my daily ritual. Let me get like a 4-pack or whatever. Let me get 4 bottles and make that a thing, as opposed to, as you said, you go back into it, it's like, this is leftovers. This is old.
Yeah, it's I don't want to say bad, but it's not from. It's like a soda. Like when you first open some ginger ale, it's the best ginger ale ever, even though it's still a soda. But then you close it. Every subsequent open is different because there's no bubbles. It gets flat. It tastes completely different. And for kombucha, it's always living, so it's going like the other way, like soda's going down and like kombucha's going like turning up. Like when you open it, there's more bacteria going in. So it can continue, but you'll have to start taking care of it, which is defeats the purpose of why people buy it,
Yeah. So it's going up like it's playing that club music you were describing when you get your 10 million.
The tempo is just as soon as you open it, the environment changes. So like it's there's a timer.
Beat drop kombucha. So speak on the mission a little bit. You said it's kind of in this business space. So if you were describing the mission or the mission that's out there, like share that with us and maybe how it's maybe changed over your progression in this space.
You said my mission?
Yes.
Yeah. So originally my mission was just to distinguish myself from X and Wild Bay. Just because I know they were there. I wasn't going to be like, I'm going to make kombucha because I can and not do any market research. I mean, specifically from the 2 that are made in more. I mean, there are like 25 in the supermarket, but those are, at that point, I'm trying to be a contender locally initially. So my mission was to be the 3rd most known kombucha business in Baltimore. And not be the most sold, just the most known. Like if people say, "Ooh, kombucha in Baltimore," it'll be, Hex, Wild Bay, and me. And that's an accomplishment in itself, or Maryland for that matter. And so that was my original mission. And then it went from that to, I realized that like all of the tea that I use, once I use it, it would have gone in the trash. So I started composting it. So, that adds some good carbon and some wet to the compost. And then you can use that compost to grow more herbs, which I bring my culinary in my kitchen background. So I could grow herbs so that I can turn into tisane, and then I'd create the cycle.
Yeah.
So when I was added into my mission to reduce as much waste as possible. So then when I was doing that, I realized that my bottles are small. And I learned this from Hex. They have a bottle return program, and they have like a wine sized bottle. So it makes sense. But for me, they're small bottles, but glass is not really getting recycled appropriately anyway. So if it comes back to me, I'll pay, people back for those bottles, and it doesn't go in a landfill. At least it gets one more use, and so then it went from reusing the tea to reusing and recycling the glass bottles. And also it helps with my cost, because when you start off as a small business, you can't purchase, 10,000 bottles, because that's how you get it cheap. That's how you could get, soda for so cheap, because they buy a whole bunch of their materials, and then they could it's cheaper that way. For me, it costs more because I buy less.
Right.
So that program really helps. And so now I just want to be, reusing, recycling, and now I want to be the kombucha, almost like the kombucha that's treated like wine, I guess. I want to be featured in fancy restaurants on their tasting in one of the courses. Like, oh, this Jasmine kombucha goes well with our squab and blah, 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 because that's how my brain is. Yeah. And so I always think that way. Yeah. And I want it to go well with food. So not only just, as a standalone beverage, but to be part of other parts of your routine. So those are part of my missions,
It would be great. It would be great to see you hatless on the bottle, on the back of the bottle, almost like one of those wine people with the ascot on and a bullet blazer. It's all right, your after dinner kombucha is here, sir.
The day when my product is in a Michelin star restaurant is going to be the day where I'm going to turn up all the way. I'm just going to reach out to whoever and just tell people that it's lit. It don't matter. It's going to be so good. It's going to be the best. But that's my intrinsic goal. You don't make money that way, but those things oh man, this, very renowned chef, finds my product valuable to their program. Yeah. I think that's really awesome. So I appreciate the chefs that have put my product on the menu in Baltimore. And I want to reach more chefs in their palates so that they can be like, man, this is really good. And that's my goal too. So multiple goals.
It'd be great if you're just you're mad because I'm shining on you just with the with the kombucha bottle. So I read that kombucha is pretty healthy, and I noticed that more and more Black folk, our folk, are paying more attention to working out and adopting a more plant-based diet. Is that something that you consider with your kombucha as well? Appealing to an audience that's more health conscious, that's more focused on just their overall wellness? To answer your question directly, no. I know kombucha is supposed to be healthy, and it is. And that's not my focal point. My focal point was the tea. I want tea to speak for itself. And I want it to be a beverage that you enjoy, in the environments, if you're drinking casually or with food. So the same way how I cook, I'm not afraid to use butter. I like protein, I like animal protein. And so I don't want to, use the health as a vehicle to sell my product, because that is not the forefront of my product. It is there, It exists, but I want it to be for everybody and not focus on people who are healthy. Because sometimes those two groups they're not in the same lane, health conscious people, they're usually, they have their whole thing going, and then people who go do everything, they kind of avoid health conscious things, or they're not oh, yeah, I'm going to drink some kombucha because I had a whole bunch of, milkshake, so those thoughts don't go across the same person's mind. Yeah.
unless they intentionally had the milkshake because they were like indulging themselves. So now they're making themselves feel bad. So they're almost punishing themselves to drink this kombucha. And I don't want people to feel like, oh yeah, I guess I got to drink it because it's supposed to be healthy. Because that's not what I want you. I don't want that thought process happening. I want them to feel like, oh, you know, I really like this business because they take care of me and it tastes good. So those are completely different thought processes. So I don't even like really try to think about it that way.
No, I dig it. That's legit. Like when I'm making those purchases, you know, earlier, like I drink a lot of like odd beverages and like, or things that are outside of water or outside of like juice. I don't really drink soda, but I like something that has a fizz to it. You'll see me always with either coffee or Topo Chico. And if I can find a way to bring tonic and coffee together, boom, regular.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's a good combo. It's a good combo. But yeah, definitely in those times where I've had kombucha, my girl was like, why are you drinking that? She's like, is that how? It's like, it tastes good. That's why I'm drinking it. And I was like, you should have some. And so I definitely dig it. So I got one last question before I get to my rapid fire questions, and we'll wrap up the show from here. When I think of Tortuga, I think of tortoises. Moving at a slower pace. How does that relate to your business, and what do you do in your downtime?
So to the first part of your question, the same way how I learned how to cook in the kitchen, how long it took me to get good in the kitchen, I put in quotation marks because you always have to get better. It takes me a long time. I'm a repetition person. Even though I get bored doing tasks repeatedly, I also get better, and it takes time for me to get the wisdom and to kind of hone in on the way I want the product to be. Also, like the way I want the brand to be. Like, so all of the little intentional things I do, I call it analysis paralysis, because I would think about it over and over and over. Like, oh, but what about this? Oh, what about this? And when I get feedback, when I do something over and over again and I see the different changes, it makes me better. It makes it easier for me to make decisions as a leader or as a business owner. And so I kind of want to embody that style, like the Tortuga, the wisdom of just taking my time to perfect, or I don't want to say perfect, but to get the product the best it can possibly be. And it can also get better and change. It just takes time. So I wanted to embody that and just kind of help me be more patient and just like kind of see it for, life for what it is like, I don't have to rush, like I'm not young, I'm not old, but I don't have to rush to try to make, $1 million off of kombucha, because that sounds ridiculous. That statement sounds ridiculous in itself. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be rich selling kombucha. Like at that point, the whole thought process about the, quality and taking care of the guests goes out the window, because I just kind of like want to focus on what I'm trying to provide, and the whole entire thing. I want to be intentional. And it takes time to, build the trust with the people, fine tune my product, fine tune my branding, and fine tune my, my business ethics too. Yeah. Because when people come to my business, they're going to see that this is the vibe. And I want them to see that it took a long time for me to create the vibe. So I'm just curating the vibe.
It's going back to, I think, your just your purpose in it. Like if you don't get too far and get unfocused on what the actual goal is, you've identified the goals. Like, look, I want to do this. I like doing this. I like using the tea to do this and things of that nature. I mean, I want to make kombucha, but also I want to make sure that the people, my guests, my customers, clients, that they're locked into the vibe.
Yeah. So that's the answer to your first part. What was the second part of your question?
What do you do to spend your downtime? I know a big piece of it is dedicated towards a little one, but how do you spend your downtime?
So it is taking care of my daughter. Well, I guess that's not downtime. I play video games. I'm a gamer. I would like to say I'm a gamer. I listen to some podcasts. I walk my dog a lot. I hang out with my wife. That's pretty much all. Because the amount of time that I have free is like maybe an hour or two after work, after baby care, after dog watching, after hanging out with my wife, after taking care of the house. I'll maybe have an hour or two. And so like, do I want to play video games for 3 hours? Yeah, of course. But I fall asleep. I literally will fall asleep doing things that, that are on the highest of the priority scale. Yeah. I'll just fall asleep now. Like I used to be able to play. I can't even stay up.
Yeah, I can't stay up past midnight anymore. It's like it's spooky season right now as we're recording this, and my girl will throw on like some horror movies. Like I think we were watching Creep Show, and she's like, "You sure you want to watch this? I know you're gonna fall asleep." And then my thing is, because I'm so tall and I hate sitting on the couch for like long hours, I'll just lay on the floor next to the dog, and it looks ridiculous because the dog is enormous. I'm enormous. It's like, what the hell is going on here? And I'll fall asleep holding the dog like it's a teddy bear. The dog's like a 90-pound sheepadoodle. So it's the funniest visual. And she's like I said, I knew you were going to go to sleep. That's like, look, the person died. She's like, that's every episode. I was like,
that's true. No, I'm like, I stay up because of like, after my wife and daughter goes to sleep, I go and make kombucha. Yeah. But when I get home, it's like 2-3 o'clock, there's no video game energy, there's no sit in front of a TV energy there or screen computer, like paperwork and stuff. Like I'm going to take a shower and then I'm going to act like I want to drink a beer, but then it's going to be full. And then my wife's going to wake up and be like, hey, what's that? And I'm like, I tried, I'm just
it's like, I have just enough energy to close my eyelids. That's about it.
So that's what it is. And it's not a bad thing. It's just, that's the reality. Our priority shift, and, it's some days, you get the free time and I like going out to eat. That's what I like doing that. That's how I learn. So if I could do that too, that's something I do in my free time, but that's also like work almost to me,
is research. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like some of the things I do are kind of like both, but if it had to be a free time, it would be playing video games, reading anime, or watching anime, gardening now, because I'm a parent and a husband, so I'm doing that. But the gardening is like an activity I do with my daughter too, so it's kind of dual purpose. So yeah, those answers.
Yeah, I like to look at that approach as almost stealing time. It's like if I can stack two competing interests into one thing that I feel is true to each of them, that's that sweet spot. Because if it's like I can do a podcast while like kind of connecting with someone, like legitimately not like, I'm done with this interview, peace, see you in hell or whatever, it feels, it's a different vibe and it's a different energy. And I think you get a little more out of it. Or even if it's like, I should be hanging out with my girlfriend. It's like, all right, hey, you want to come and do this thing with me? It might be something that's network oriented, but my girl loves to have an opportunity to wear something nice and go out and show off her great colored hair, because she always dyes her hair this time of the year. So, nice. It's a good combo. I'm bald, so I don't really have that. So now we're at this last part, my rapid fire questions. And I like to craft these in a way just to get feedback from the guest. It doesn't need any context. It's just, what's your answer? All right. First one I have is favorite tea.
Favorite tea? I hover. So Genmaicha would be one, which is that's kind of like my winter tea. Is a brown toasted rice. I used to do that with food. And then Uji Gyokuro, which is a green tea. That tea is like fire to me. So
I feel like we're going to have a tea conversation after this, probably.
That one I recently learned about, and I love it. So it's really nice. So that's my answer.
The next one is, since Tortuga, Turtle, Tortoise, the whole thing, who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Ooh, I don't even remember all their names. I know it's Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and the orange one, the one with the orange.
Orange is Michelangelo, blue is who you're thinking of, and that's Leonardo.
Okay, so I liked Nunchucks because he was kind of like how I am, kind of the wild card style. So I would say him because he never really got enough like shine. They always like kind of like pooped on him, but he was good and very like dynamic character. But like it was like, oh yeah, the guy with the swords is better than the one with the like he's cool, but like Green Ranger. And then put aside, he's like the Black Ranger of Ninja Turtles. He's like just like go like why I do that? Nunchucks cool. Like what is it? Bruce Lee used nunchucks. Like that was his tool. Like come on.
My brother's gonna love this because that's his favorite turtle. He's like, look, no one ever respects Michelangelo. Damn it.
I'm just saying, Bruce Lee nunchucks. He pulled nunchucks out of nowhere. So you gotta respect it.
And you knew he was gonna get busy with them too. So it's like, yeah, you gotta respect these sticks, my guy. So fermented foods, real quick. Sauerkraut or kimchi?
Ooh, that's hard because I like both. I would say sauerkraut when it's with charcuterie, just because it's charcuterie season. Mm-hmm. But kimchi is like all year.
Legit. And kimchi has that spice element too. You can get the different heat on there. I like throwing that in a bowl with something, maybe some seaweed or something, and ginger, clear everything out. Yeah,
I just recently miso kimchi from Hex, and I was eating it with a quiche.
as you should. Yeah,
because that's a good combo.
So now these last two are cooking related. Favorite meal to cook?
Rice and beans. I like to channel the inner Puerto Rican that I never really practiced. And growing up in New York, when I discovered rice and beans, it was like the jam. So every time someone's like, oh, we're going to have company or people want to come over for dinner, I make rice and beans because that's like my soul food right there. Like that's the food that I share with people, and they know that I want to take care of them. So rice and beans.
Which part of New York are you from again?
Brooklyn.
My girl's from Brooklyn. She always puts in the rice and beans.
Yeah.
Always.
So it's like no one really knows. It's like the whole other side of Brooklyn, not the place where all the people near Manhattan are now. It's like the other side. But that's where I am. That's where I was from. So.
She'll throw it out from Bed-Stuy, get it right. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Last thing, favorite place to eat in Baltimore. You mentioned you like going out to eat. So, and it's not saying one place is better, but what is one of your favorite places to go out to get that food in?
Oh man, that's such a loaded question.
I know, right?
You're trying to get me in trouble. So I have places for things. So my favorite place to get pizza is Isabella's in Little Italy.
Okay.
And as we said, based off the Ninja Turtles, I love pizza. So Isabella's is my favorite pizza. And then anytime I can make an excuse to go to Charleston and afford it, I would love to go to Charleston every single day. And then if it's low key, then Louis is cool too. But Louis is nice. And then I think I just listed all 20 foreign restaurants. That's not fair. Minus Isabella's. I would say to throw a curveball, there's this deli way up off of Loch Raven and Joppa Road. It's called El Pastores.
Oh yeah.
And sandwiches over there. They make good sandwiches. So I'll throw that one in there just to be county.
Okay. Yeah. You were inclusive. You didn't burn any bridges there. I dig it.
Yeah.
Put my man's kombucha in your place, guys. So that's all the questions that I have. I want to give you a chance to plug anything that you want to plug, your website, your social media, all of that stuff. And again, thank you, Davon, for coming on to the podcast.
Of course. Yeah. You can find me at tortugakombucha.com. Also, that's the Insta as well, just Tortuga Kombucha. And yeah, I post what we're doing is very raw. It's not like raw when you think raw. It's more like bare bone posting. I say, oh, look, I got a couple of bottles, like a pallet of bottles, like sharing my business journey and talking about tea. And I just like, if you aren't into kombucha, that's cool. But if you want to try some kombucha, I'll pour you a tasting and we can find the one that you like and we can see where we go from there. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Totally. So for Davon Pulliam of Tortuga Kombucha, I am Rob Lee saying that there is business in and around Baltimore. You just have to look for it.